Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. So, no cast today, as you may have guessed from the title. We're going to be talking about how people know where your units are and seem to snipe them without technically being able to know where your units are. Now, this is something that comes up a lot on Discord. I see it on Reddit sometimes. This person's cheating, they killed my CV, they sniped my artillery without me firing, etc, etc, etc. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be some unscrupulous people out there who are cheating, and that's unavoidable in any multiplayer game on the PC generally. Obviously, we just have to hope that UGen can patch, fix, or ban these people. Now, the way that a lot of people do this in UGen games, however, is using sound. So UGen's engine, I assume, has a flaw that they've never fixed, and I assume they don't know how to fix it or they can't fix it, which is that every unit in the game makes a sound, even if you can't see it. So, I don't have an enemy in this game, but normally you can't see the enemy units unless your recon can see them or one of your units has them in visual range. However, they still make a noise, and you can hear that noise. So I'm kind of giving away the magic circle secrets here, because anyone who's a UGen veteran, and when you go and talk about this issue on Discord, someone will immediately say they're listening to your unit. Well, this video is for those of you who have never come across this before and are wondering what it's all about. So, as you will probably know, every unit in the game makes a noise. Tanks, jeeps, armoured vehicles, infantry even, as well as choppers and jets. Now, they're all making noise most of the time. Now, vehicles can turn off their engines eventually, but they do have an idling noise. So, sometimes they will still make a little bit of noise, and sometimes if they're moving their turrets, they will be making noise, even if their main engine is turned off. And I wanted to demonstrate that a little bit. And then we'll hop into a game with the AI, and we'll put sort of that idea to practice in listening to the enemy units as they come in. So, first up, I'm going to exit, not the game, but I'm going to go into options. I'm going to go to audio, and I'm going to turn down ambience. Get rid of all the ambience. Okay, now when I go back to the game, no more background sound, no more radio chatter, no more sirens, no more city sounds. Now, I'm just turning that off to make it easier for everybody to hear what I'm trying to hear. And I'll try and make it as loud as I can when I edit the video. So, first thing I want to show you is infantry. Because this is the one that even surprised me when I found out about it, is infantry even makes noise when it stood still. Weirdly, I'm still getting radio chatter in the background. I would have thought that had been disabled when I turned down the ambience. That's really weird. Music's off, voice volume doesn't really matter, that's weird. I would have thought that was part of that, so there you go. I have no idea why that's not part of that. Anyhow, mech rifles. Do you hear that? You can hear them jingling around with their items. If I go to another bit of the forest just to demonstrate, no sound now, ambience is off. But if I go back there and zoom in on these guys, they make a noise. So I now know, if I'm the enemy, that I have infantry units here. So I now know where to drop my artillery. Okay? And this applies to lots of things. So these trucks currently, engines are off, they're not idling, not making any noise. But what if I move them? Moving out. Just across there. So we now have an engine sound. And if you learn the sounds in the game, you now know that that is an engine that is moving. Okay? But the sound will change when they stop and start to idle. So there you go, they've stopped now. Engine's gone quieter. And I can tell the rough area that unit's in just by listening. And now I know where to drop my artillery. As long as you catch it at the right time, you know where to drop your artillery.
Ready.
CV here. Ever had your CV sniped? Well, right now it's silent, but
Going there.
now I can hear it. And let's say you saw it coming in the back of a point and then going into a forest, but you're not sure where it's going to. Oh, it's still moving now. Still moving. Still moving. Oh, it stopped. The engine noise has changed. I now know that I need to artillery somewhere in this area. And it's pretty pinpoint accurate. You know, that was generally within a couple of meters of that vehicle. You can sort of pinpoint where it slowed down.
Tank ready.
Tanks have a very distinct sound, but every tank sounds different. Interestingly about the Abrams is it has a squeak. You hear that? Not every tank has that squeak, but the Abrams does. It's quite a distinct engine sound, and it's got that squeak going on in the background. All Abrams have that.
Myself are ready, sir.
I'm just going to move this command over here. And again, just pointing out that this is a command vehicle. I can hear it potentially moving into position. And then it's going to go somewhere and it's going to park. Still moving, still moving. Wait, and there we go, the engine sound's changed. I know it's somewhere in this area. There you go, just under the camera. And it doesn't stop there. What about helicopters?
Need some extra eyes, sir.
Well, they make a noise as well. They make a noise as they're taking off. They make a noise as they're flying.
Yes, Captain. Driving.
And they also make a noise as they land. And this one amused me because I was thinking, well, you shoot a chopper. That's a very distinct sound of the engines winding down, yeah? Very distinct sound of it landing. Now, if you imagine you've shot a chopper, done it some damage, the enemy has now backed it off to repair it. Well, if you can spare the time to zoom in and listen, you can sort of get the general area where that's just landed to be repaired and rearmed. Well, there's where you're dropping your artillery.
I need that tail rotor checked.
Apache likely has a slightly different sound. And some people will probably have spent enough time doing this that they know every individual sound. I can certainly pick out the Abrams. And I've done this for this video. I know this exists, but I don't use it when I play the game. I don't play at that level. But if you play in the ranked ladder, especially at the top of the ranked ladder, they're going to be using this. I've seen them use it. I'm not going to name any names, but I've seen them use it. It's not considered an exploit. It's considered an extension of the game. Whether you put quote-unquote feature is up for debate, but it's there and people utilize it. If you are not utilizing it in the ranked ladder, then you're probably at a disadvantage because they will be doing so. But everything in the game makes a noise. Another good example is jets.
Eagle 1, ready.
Let's call in the
On my
A-10.
way.
And then even faster, we're going to call in the Eagle because they just come in faster. And listen to this. Fast moving. Particular sound of the jet engine. I couldn't tell you that's an F-15. I can tell you that's an A-10 though. Very distinct sound. Very slow. That's an A-10. And you can kind of judge that by what the enemy's division is and what they might be bringing in. I couldn't tell you that's an Eagle because I haven't listened enough, but I know that's an A-10 from the sound and the speed. Let's put that into practice. Let's switch into an actual game with an AI and have a listen for their units. Okay, so the enemy is the 82nd Airborne. That means they've got some forward deployment and non-forward deployment troops. So we might hear some forward deployment, we might hear some recon units a little bit further behind them, and then we might hear some stuff at the spawn. I don't know what the enemy is putting down. If you've ever watched some of the top tier players on this map, for example, you'll see at the start they might do this and zoom in on the enemy roads. That's because they're listening for where the majority of the enemy forces are. If you think about it, this map's quite small side to side. So if you hear a load of units here, you can redirect extra forces to Elena. Or if you hear a lot coming down the middle, maybe you want to send more to Anna. Or maybe you want to push Elena instead. There are many, many reasons that you may want to adjust your playstyle based on what sounds you hear at the start. The same goes for aircraft, and you'll see some of the really experienced players playing this way round. So that's my units. So why am I looking this way? Well, there's two good reasons for it. One, I can now see any units that go around the back. So say I'm at the front line looking towards the enemy's rear, down here, like that. I can't see my back lines, but now I can. So if I just happen to glimpse the enemy bringing a chopper around to capture a back point, I can now see it. Also, the other thing is, I can now hear the enemy bringing in aircraft. If they bring a jet in, I can hear it before it gets to the front line. So if they bring in an SU-25 or an A-10 to kill my tanks, I've just got an early warning and now can back my tanks off or preemptively smoke them, completely nullifying that jet. At least you hope. But let's launch the game. I've just got some recon down just to see what's happening. I'm not going to play properly. I just want to demonstrate that you can listen. So launch battle, and we're going to zoom straight in on this road. I'm just going to move along it, listening for vehicles. There we go, we got a vehicle there. Sounds like a Jeep or something with wheels. Not hearing anything else yet. That's a tank. And it's got a squeak. So that's probably an Abrams. So where's the rest of the enemy units? Not hearing anything there. Very quiet here as well. Okay, completely different. They've got loads of stuff at the top here. Very interesting. So completely different to what this AI has done other games. It's pushed the top really hard. But there's the Abrams I said I heard. And it's got a Sheridan with it. Got a Bradley over here. Now that's sat still. The Bradley has a very put kind of noise when it's driving. So that has quite a distinct noise. And the tanks here, the squeak is the Abrams. The rattle is the Sheridan. Here's one that seems to rattle at the back. That's the Sheridan coming in. So each unit has a very distinct sound, and although you might not pay so much attention to exactly that, you're still going to be thinking that's a tracked vehicle, it could be a tank, that's a wheeled vehicle, could be advanced infantry. The list goes on. But if you've ever wondered why the enemy can see your units when they shouldn't be able to see them and have managed to snipe stuff, it's because their engines are making noise and they can hear them. If I zoom in at the back of the map, and there was an artillery piece here, I would be able to hear that artillery piece. Unfortunately, the game is going to make loads and loads of noise because they're engaging and the units are going to talk, so I apologise for that. But do you get the idea? I can't see these vehicles, but I can hear them. I can hear them driving around. I can see them again now. That's the put of the Bradley. That's the tanks over here. There's a helo here, which I can see at the moment, but it just landed. For some reason, that helo just landed there. And I could hear it land, but it was no longer visible to me. There we go, it's taking off again. Do you get the idea? I think you can see where I'm going with it, I hope. So yes, I kind of let the cat out of the bag, but I was sort of always thinking to myself, should I do a video on this or shouldn't I? And I kind of feel like, if some people know about this, it's more fair if everybody knows about it. Generally, you're not going to see it used in many team games, and you're not going to see it used that often in 10v10s. But even I've lost units in a 10v10 and thought, what the heck is going on there? Well, the reason I've lost that unit is probably because my unit was making a load of noise even though it hadn't fired, or even though I'd moved it about. and they just zoomed in and listened for that engine noise. Because there will be dedicated artillery people in some team games and 10v10s that will just listen for units to attack. But it's a really interesting thing that I don't think everybody realizes exists. So there you go. That's why I made this video. Just to explain, it's not always a cheater. It's very likely not a cheater. It's more likely that they're just using a pre-existing quote-unquote feature of listening to the sound of the units to pinpoint the general location and drop arty on it, or bomb it, or whatever else. So there you go. I hope this was beneficial to some people who are wondering why they're losing units like that. And, you know, I'm not saying everyone should go out and do this in every game. It would distract you from the front line for a start. But just to be aware, this is a thing that exists, and if you're in the top-end ranked pool in the ranked ladder, then your opponents are probably using this. It is what it is. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.